Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Success Codes podcast. I'm your host, Melinda Van Fleet. I'm an energetic and intuitive business and leadership mentor, and I'm so grateful that you joined us today. I have a returning guest. You may or may not remember my very good friend, Astrid Zayas. She was on episode 50 back in October. So I definitely want you to go back and rewatch that episode because she shared a lot about her journey and what she does. And she's a self-expression guide. And she helps women express themselves through art and the exploration of their self-image. So welcome back, Astrid. So amazing to have you on this show.
Thank you so much for the invitation and for offering your platform to talk about this hot topic.
And the topic we're going to be talking about today, which is an extremely hot topic, it's a powerful topic. I have the chills already, and that is young women. I'm going to say you can bucket them as kids, girls, but really they're approaching they're in their young adult years, being obsessed with face serums, face masks, and creams, not even washes. It's more of like the serum, the anti-aging aspect of beauty care. And how this conversation got started with Astrid and I is if you follow either of us on LinkedIn, she shared a article that was posted on today.com, and I'm going to read the title. Tweens are going wild in Sephora and parents are getting blamed. And this article was by Rosie Colossi, and it was January 18th. And I will also put the link to that article in the show notes. And Astrid, why don't you kick it off and share about, why you posted about this and how you made it feel, and then we'll kind of dive in from there.
Thank you, Melinda. So I was talking with a friend of mine and she was the one that mentioned it to me. And I'm like, you know what, I need to look into this because I have always, not always, I have always, everything is image. And it has been a journey for me to understand the deeper meaning of image, imaginary. And so I looked it up and you know what, I got anguished, Melinda, when I read the article and it's not about blaming. I think we were talking about that. It's not about blaming the parents or blaming, because when we blame, we're just passing, you're to blame. And then so nobody takes responsibility. It's about understanding why is this happening? What's happening with the soul of these young girls that they think they need to spend X amount of money to look a certain way. And what is it that we are doing as adults and unconsciously that they pick up and then they act this way? Because I think I also mentioned that before social media, there was a family conditioning. And that's because this topic triggers a lot in me. I'm a daughter. I was a 10-year-old girl at some point in my life. And I understand, and you know what, it's behind, what's the point of looking beautiful outside when inside you feel inadequate, you feel ugly. And that's why I posted that, because to create awareness, and awareness is not about blaming, it's about seeing it and then asking why that, what's happening with this soul that needs to do this.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So in general, the context of my podcast, when I have guests from this day forward, so I was so excited to have Astrid back, is it's going to be conversations. And I really wanted to shift the energy around my podcast to having conversations because, we're all mature adults. And we all have the essence in us to come from a place of compassion and love, and being able to share not only our experiences, but our points of view wherever we are on the journey, I feel is really, really important, and something that's really missed out there in the land of podcasting. So I loved when Astrid shared, why she was sad when she read the article about, the young girls in Sephora. And so I had commented on her LinkedIn that I just a week before, it might have been days before, was at a Sephora in Merrick Park, which is a beautiful shopping area in Coral Gables, Florida. And I went into Sephora like I always do, and the store was jam packed with teenagers. And I was like, is this like the hangout? And that was the first time it really like hit me. And I was like, oh my gosh, these kids, young adults, are just gathered in Sephora and like hanging out. There are plenty of places to hang out at the mall, like the center of the mall, a coffee shop, but they were literally just in Sephora hanging out. So the timing of that couldn't have been more perfect. And a few days prior, I had also been at my very good friend's house here in the Keys, and she has a lovely, beautiful 10-year-old daughter, 10, literally just turned 10 around Christmas time. And she was showing me what she was like obsessed with, and having a FaceTime conversation with her fellow 10-year-old friends about. And it was this topic, it was skincare. And so I asked her to show me, and she is obsessed with this skincare line called Bubble. And Bubble is not inexpensive. It is, a ticket for the skincare line. So the timing of Astrid posting this was just like spot on with what I had seen. And just too, in full transparency, because I think this is important as we dive into this, is I am child free. I literally like would put myself in harm's way if I were to have children. And I'm very acceptance of that. I have two beautiful nieces. One is 18 and one is 15. And they have never been obsessed with makeup or skincare. They're not really on social media. It's just not their thing. So this was like my first experience into this. Was just witnessing this with someone else's, 10-year-old, and then with Sephora. And then further, but I am a daughter. So I had experiences as a child that we'll dig into in a second with other trends that were out there and how that affected me in my life and as a kid. So Astrid, how old are you?
I'm 53, gonna be 54 in March.
Same age?
I do not have kids. And like you said, I am a daughter. I was 10 years old. I have seen how it influenced and it affected me growing up, that image of beauty back then, which, I mean, if we think what was beauty back then, whatever was on TV. And I can say like Iri Chacon, that's like a Latin woman that, her body was a certain type of body. So in my mind, I needed to have that type of body. And
Mm.
I have seen how it influenced and affected me. And I have seen and I see how it influences women, our age. And you know what? Sometimes I get, no, you know what? That's a topic for kids because but then we adults are doing so many things to themselves. I think we talked that on our first conversation, that you have a friend that works with this surgeon, plastic surgeon, that he has a psychologist or a psychiatrist in their team because of the big issue. And I think we also talk about the 12-year-old that had implants. And one of the problems that I see is when you act like an adult at 10, 12 years old, and then there comes a man
Mhm.
and then talks to you in a certain way. Let's say that talks to you in a certain way. How are you going to react?
Right.
You know, it's like they are not mentally, I mean, no, they're not, let me see if I can say the proper words. To act as an adult, I mean, those are things like, yes, to what is it that they're going to do when an adult treats them as an adult and they're 12 years old? And something else that I like to emphasize is when the focus is beauty, only beauty, everything else that you have, that you are, it disappears because the focus is in beauty. Let's say, for example, what if you don't look a certain way? What if you don't follow that beauty? Then who are you? It's you know what it's like, and I mentioned family conditioning because when we are kids, since we are born, and we are described by words from our parents. You are the smart one. You are the beautiful one. You are the doctor. You are the engineer. And we follow that throughout our lives and we don't even realize it. So something in social media what comes before from the family conditioning is triggering these kids to act a certain way.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I can totally relate to that. There's so many places we can go with this conversation. It's like so massive. But I remember when I was a kid, my uncle and my aunt at the time, he's no longer married to the same woman, told me I was chunky. And I grew up as a kid thinking I was fat. I did. And, so again, I'm almost 53. So back then, kids weren't heavy. Like if there was someone in your class that was overweight, it was kind of like a rare thing. Now I do think it's definitely a whole other topic that is pretty massive. But now I look back at a picture of me when I was like in third grade and I'm like, oh my God, I was not fat at all. Like, why would I ever have thought that, right? But my uncle like implanted that in my head when I was a kid. And yeah, I wasn't as thin as the other girls, but I certainly wasn't fat, right? So we take these imprints of things that people are said, and then we use that like to compare ourselves. And it's really hard to break out of those patterns. Like it's truly, truly hard. And one of the things, when I was a kid was, and maybe you have this memory too, is like Bonnie Bell lip gloss. Like it was the rollers. Did you have like lip smackers and the
Yes.
rollers? So like bubble gum and strawberry and like lip gloss was like the thing. And then my mom sold Avon. And so we had a little bit of makeup, and then my mom would say that I would sneak out of the house and put some blue eyeshadow on like in 7th grade, little things like that, truly nothing like drastic by any means. And I became, when I was going through a really hard time in my 30s, lipstick became my addiction. And I was going through a horrible time in my career. I was going through a horrible time with my ex. So my ex-boyfriend, prior to Ryan, it was a horrible, horrible experience. I wrote about it in my book, Life and Love Lessons. And I was addicted to lip gloss. And so I would stop at the mall every single night on my way home from work and buy a Chanel, and not cheap stuff. Like I was like Chanel, Lancome, like all the brands in the department store, NARS. And I had like tubs and tubs and tubs of lip gloss. And these patterns show up like later in life even. So you may think, oh, it's cute that my daughter is, into this, right? And I've seen some, reels that are like, oh, I'm the one still using Neutrogena, or, what's another one that's more of a, oil of Olay, and my daughter's using, J-Lo's stuff, like it's, you laugh at the reel, but what is that really going to do over time is the bigger question, and then unwiring those beliefs that have been implanted is really hard work. So
Totally, Melinda. I've been working on my own self-image through psychoanalysis. I think I mentioned that. And it's to, like, let me give you an example. Growing up, I heard a lot of bullying towards obese people. And in my as a little girl, I was like, okay, this is what I heard. I cannot be like that, because if I am like that, they're gonna refer to me in that way. They're gonna talk about me in that tone. Those are the things that I talk about, like the subtleness of the things that regarding the image that we don't even know, that are unconscious to us. And you know what? Also, I am blonde. I have green eyes. I was born in Puerto Rico. And oh, Astrid, beautiful Astrid, blonde and green eyes. That's all I saw. You know what? I never saw my creativity, and I am extremely creative. And I'm thankful that I was able to rediscover my creativity. But I never thought I was creative. I was only Astrid. Oh, Astrid, look at Astrid, blonde and green eyes. I remember a boyfriend that I had, and I think I said that this before. He's like, hi, Astrid. And he would introduce me like that. And I thought that people loved me because I was blonde and green eyes. And you notice it's and okay, yes. And that brings me to today, that I'm going to be 54 years old, and see how the cult to be young, and see how actresses are suffering. And nobody talks about this, about getting old. You know what, like here, you know what it's like. And now that we're in camera, now that I'm doing videos, now on that, you know what, everything is an image. I'm seeing my image, I'm seeing your image. And it's like, and I had that light in my face.
good lighting.
Good lighting, you have to have good lighting. And you know what, it's like, sometimes it's like, I'm like, oh no, I don't look beautiful here. And you know what, it's like, and even when I do my art classes, can you see the beauty in what you create? Can you see the beauty in yourself? Can you see the beauty? I was reading something this morning about, from the book Saturn, from Liz Green, how we all need to find our expression in creativity. And it could be like creativity, emotional creativity, intelligence creativity, art creativity, and your kids. Can you see the beauty in your kids?
Yes. Yes.
So, it's, thank you for sharing what you share. Thank you for opening your heart. And so for me, and I see the suffering in women in my family. I see the suffering, you know what, I'm like, this person 59, and I have wrinkles. So what can I do so I don't have these wrinkles? And and it's like, when the focus is outside and not inside, what's the point? What's the point? I see it. I see, like, and again, it's not about judging. It's about asking yourself, why is it that I need to do this? Why is it that I need to add, I'm going to say maybe Botox? Is it that I don't feel seen by my partner, by my loving partner? Is it that I'm not seeing myself? And those are the questions that I am inviting people to ask. Why is it that a 10-year-old needs to go to Sephora and spend $1,000 in products? What's going on with her? Am I seeing her? Am I listening to her? You know, it's an act of self-love towards ourselves, to be aware, and to not only, oh, have a aha moment here in my mind, but then tomorrow I forgot, because that's what happens. Today I have an aha moment, and tomorrow, out the door, I repeat the same thing. What do you think?
That's like an epidemic. That's my whole thing right now with the wellness vibe, is like, everyone thinks they can go to like yoga or go to a sound bowl,
I'm
or
healed.
and then they get back in their car and like zero has changed. It's like my big bugaboo. So yes, you are 100% correct. You are 100% correct. But what's interesting too is you mentioned the $1,000 at Sephora, and that was, something that the article was about, was the money, and then the, parents getting blamed or moms getting blamed. And then, if someone's at the counter and the mom says, put it back, like that whole conversation around money is, in my opinion, even bigger in a way, because that's where all these like patterns of what's been said to you, right? Like
Mhm.
can really, really jack you up. And that's like when I look at my childhood, and we had trends, so not just the lip gloss, but do you remember like Forenza sweaters and designer jeans, and then we had like these where I lived in South Side of Chicago, so I don't know if this was a regional thing, but there were like these handbags and they had a unicorn on them. And they were like these unicorn bags, and they came in all different colors, and they were at the local shoe store. And I worked since I was 14 years old, plus had an allowance, and my parents didn't buy me anything. Like I had to buy, like if I wanted that lip gloss, I had to buy it. And I could get something like for my birthday or Christmas, but it was only be like one. So this girl I grew up with named Tammy, her mom would buy her like three, would buy her like five. So she always had like a lot of the thing that was the trend. And there's a lot packed in this, but where I'm going with this is all of that, like conversations and being restricted, and in combination with having to earn the money to buy it, like all of those patterns and this jig jag of like then seeing my mom being a shopaholic and buying whatever she wanted, and a lot of financial things in that, like created like a total shitstorm of money challenges for me in my adult life. Like understanding lack, understanding earning, understanding saving. My father did a horrible job of teaching us, my sister, my brother, and I, about anything financial. Everything was just like, save your money. Well, like, what does that mean? Like, it meant nothing, right? And then seeing my mom spend and then restrict from us, and just like this whole, like, again, it was a shitstorm. And I've been like wiring all of that conditioning in my life. Like it's truly been a journey, which I know now I can really help other people with, right? Everything, like our lessons become things we can help others with. Obviously, that's why we're doing this podcast too. But when I read that article and I saw the money, like the dollar amounts, the $700, the $500, like these kids have no concept of money. Like they have no concept, and they've no teaching. How do they learn about money? Like there's truly no concept. So it's really focused right now on this specific item. But like I said, when I was a kid, it was Friends of sweaters and it was designer jeans. Like the items like flip-flopped, right, as the trend. But underlying it was always could be circled back to money, restriction, lack, or, desiring and comparing that the other friend of mine had more. So I think there's just this huge conversation that parents, and I'm not blaming them, need to be just aware of, how is this affecting your child in terms of developing smart money habits, right? And smart money beliefs, so they don't end up like me, completely, jacked up in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, really, before I started to do the work around, what happened to me, like why has my financial situation in my life always had these like extreme ups and downs, and a lot of challenges packed into that.
You mentioned a lot of things.
I
Yes.
did. As I said, there's a lot to unpack here. Like I
You
could
know
write
what?
several books on this whole topic.
Yeah, no, and okay, this is what what came to me, what about worth. It has to do about our worth. And I mean, before let's what's going on with us. because as a daughter, I saw a lot without words from my mother. And I translated that whatever, and I still see it in my life. And when I'm working in closet with women, I see it there as well. And he said, what is it that we are saying without saying? Oh, you know what? I look horrible. Oh, no, no, look at this. My hips are big. And you know what? While the kids are listening to all of that, you being harsh on yourself, they're listening to that. And regarding so start with you, like self-discovery, self-knowledge with you. And then about the money is about worth. And you know how recently
I actually see when you said worth, like just to
our
like,
worth. As an entrepreneur, okay, and you know what, I'm trying to unite worth with the image of beauty. Okay, I know it. And the money, and then the money. Okay, now I know. Okay. So having this image of beauty, of looking a certain way, objectifies you. I did pharmaceuticals for many years, and I positioned myself as an object because I was Astrid, blonde and green eyes. Astrid's not smart. I mean, I didn't hear that, but it's like the emphasis was in how I look. That when I was selling, I positioned myself as an object. Working with doctors, I seduce them I mean, we're always seducing people because we're selling, is part of selling. The thing is that I felt I wanted to be, even with my boyfriends, when they would tell me how beautiful, I'll be like, I want to be seen as smart. But it was not then, it was me. I didn't see myself as smart. I saw myself as Astrid, blonde with green eyes. And again, when the importance is in just one thing, and in this case, we're talking about beauty, everything else you are does not exist. And that is how, okay, and about, okay, so let's say we're 60 years old with the quotes, being young. Then I hear, yes, it's, what are we going to do?
yeah.
I mean, what are we going to do? It's,
Yeah. And I think that the crux of this all with like, but if a parent's listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so struggling this with my daughter. And let's say they're, our age or younger, and they also have personal experiences, like just having this conversation with them to see, you know, if they're really in this like trend of, wanting all this like beauty products, why? Like really, like why? Do they have an image challenge that they're, trying to get over? Or is it that they're just hanging out with their friends? And trying to get like an honest answer about that, I think is really important, instead of just like laughing it off or getting in a fight about the money or anything like that. Like just having those honest conversations so you can really see where your daughter's head's at, right? And maybe even sharing, like, I did not have this relationship with my mother. So being able to share, if you are a mom that went through something like Astrid's experience or my experience that, tied back to lack and a financial like zigzag through my life, being able to share your experience with your daughter, I think is really, really important. Like go out to lunch and get out of the house and have this conversation, and not from a lens of I walked 10 feet in the snow, which I think a lot of us Gen Xers have PTSD about from our parents, well, I walked 10 feet in the snow. You shouldn't, have to do that. But from a conversation, right? That's what, we're doing, is having a conversation. I didn't have the same experience as Astrid. I always felt in my looks, I always felt that I was just like, a C player. Like I wasn't like not attractive, but I wasn't the most attractive, right? I was always, how did I put this? Because I really discovered this when I was a little older. I was always just like neutral, like middle. Like there was actually a word that I had thought of, was like, I was just kind of there. I was always the kid that was just kind of there. Like I didn't really like stand out. I didn't really like shrink in the corner. I was just kind of like putzing along, I had some friends I dated, but nothing really like extravagant. So so yeah, so now I don't know if that really shows up for me now. Some people might say it does, but I just kind of still feel like I'm just kind of there, but I'm okay with that. Like I'm good with that, right? So it's everyone's like journey in terms of their self. And honestly, I just got eyelashes. And why I love them is because it saves me a shit ton of time. So I think understanding like if there's something that you do for beauty reasons, again, this goes back to the conversation, like why do you do it, right? Like are you doing it because you have this pattern of belief about yourself, or are you doing it because it really just saves a shit ton of time every day?
Yeah.
If you like them, right? So anyhow.
Yeah, and you know what? I never felt beautiful.
Oh, even though people said you were so beautiful, and you are beautiful, but I'm trying not to trigger
I
you.
never felt,
So
you know what? I never felt. No, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, I mean, if you don't work on your inside,
Mhm.
what good is looking beautiful, beautiful by definition to whom? In
Mhm.
Puerto Rico, apparently, then being blonde and green eyes was like, ah. And then I lived in Dominican Republic, and then it was also, ah. But
Mhm.
it's like, did I feel beautiful? Not at all. Not
Yeah.
at all. And it's like, it comes to mind Valentine's. In Valentine's, they had these celebrating at the school. I went to a Catholic school, and they celebrated the queen and the king, and for the Valentines. And I think that's like continuously perpetuating the beauty standard. I don't know if they still do that in school, but that's like, no, you should look this way.
Like a
And I
homecoming queen.
struggle. I remember doing this. I like this guy. And I knew where he was going to be. And I dressed exactly the way that I knew I was going to get his attention. And
Mm.
yes, and then I got his attention, and then we started. I was like, he's there. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna dress this way, like a little girl with ponytails and blah blah blah. And then he jumped, and then after we were together, I cut my hair like very short because I didn't want to. But I was the one that was positioning myself as an object for the other person to be admired.
Mm.
So, and I say that story because I mean, it's sad because there's time, okay, you know what, you like this, but no, I'm gonna cut my hair, and I wanted to be seen as a smart woman,
Yeah. Oh, wow.
and a creative person. And you know what? I come from family, I mean, having a lot of surgeries, so for this and that, and I don't want to get into detail because and I see the pain. I mean, the pain, the suffering, because behind all of this, there
Mhm.
is a lot of suffering. There is a lot of, I mean, I'm not being seen by the other. I'm not being heard by the other. And that to put into words by
Mhm.
a 10-year-old, it's very hard. And what you're saying is like, or just look at, okay, if I'm struggling, let's say, I mean, I don't have any kids, but then I'm like, I'm struggling with my job, let's say, or my relationship. Instead of blaming and looking, I say, okay, what is it that I'm doing that I'm attracting this type of person? What is it that I'm doing? Okay, if I'm struggling with my kid, what is it? Okay, so let me look at my own behavior regarding beauty. What are my beliefs regarding beauty? Am I being, I mean, am I doing all these things because of what? Because the kids are paying attention. It's not what you say, it's what you're doing. At
Mhm.
least when I was a little girl, it's what I heard and
Mhm.
what I saw that affected me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing that more and more people, even though this is so talked about out there, that the things that happen to you before you're 6, and the
Mm.
conversations that you witness. Ryan and I just had a big conversation about this the other night, like dinner conversations with him and his his family, let's say his parents, and then the same thing with me. Because this was also a conversation in our household at the dinner table, was always about my dad getting laid off. And was my dad going to get laid off, or there was another round of layoffs, and that was like constant, like, and my husband went through the same thing. Like his dad was, you know, always like there was some type of job struggle or this and that. And I'm not saying that you should shield your children because it's life, right? But it's the awareness that that creates a pattern of something in your life. And for Ryan, it's always been like a fear of like losing everything, right? Like this fear that someone's going to come and take it all away, which then, you know, blends into, you know, competition, right? Competition with other people, like someone's going to take my business. And so really understanding like, how does this show up for you? And that we're all different. So that did not affect me in the same way, even though I had that as well with my dad. It didn't affect me in the same way, but I can see him, like I can see Ryan, and with compassion understand, you know, why, you know, his patterns have been such, and right. And then when you really see that and you accept it and go, okay, then you got to let it go. Like, that's the thing that a lot of people aren't doing. Like they're sitting in their mud or their trauma or whatever you want to say, and they're like rehashing it all the time, whether it's in their head or in their belief system. You have to find a way to move forward. But I think just having the conversations around, you know, what's going on with your kid and what's your experience been like is so important. And the other thing I just saw the other day in this article, it was in Forbes, blew my mind, and something you said earlier in this conversation that triggered it to remember was there's this 22-year-old on TikTok who's talking about manifestation, and she's a millionaire now because she's on TikTok promoting her manifestation courses. She's 22. 22. And what it was that you said that triggered this me remembering this story was that, you know, you felt like you were known for being beautiful versus being smart or creative. So when you're 22, and she obviously started the journey before she's 22 because she's a millionaire now. So, you know, she had to start a couple of years ago, let's say on TikTok, is she's teaching people that you just like manifest everything in your life, right? Okay, when you're
That
22,
is it.
you need to be like working. You need to be building a career. Like you need to like do the thing. And I'm not trying to judge her because I haven't watched her content. So it could be the most amazing content for a 22-year-old. She could be a very old soul. Like it's really not about her per se. It just really struck me as like, what are we also teaching, you know, young adults that then they latch onto that, right? That's the one and the only thing. And it's like, no, there's so much that goes into manifestation and belief systems and how you show up and how you're being, and you're only 22. Like, how do you even like know all that to teach? So there's many layers there, but that just reminded me of another article I saw that I was like, oh my gosh, you know, and then what are the writers writing about? You know, they're writing about like a hot topic, and then there's no like further conversation or context to share about that.
I
So,
know. And yeah, and this, I actually, that article that I posted on LinkedIn about Sephora, they briefly mentioned, and they are doing this because they're following a TikTok somebody and they want to look like that TikTok person. It was briefly mentioned. I mean, the article was more about blaming and finding solutions than digging deeper and to what is the real motive. But they really mentioned that they are doing all of this because they want to look a certain way. And going back to what you were saying, it's like asking what is your definition of beauty, and what is it that you are doing yourself as an adult? I mean, do you see your own beauty?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. And then one more thing on the article thing actually that came to me to share. And this is a big share. This is my message to all the writers out there, and I'm a writer myself, so I can speak and say this. Be careful what you're writing, because it does put ideas and images into these young adults' heads. And I'm speaking from personal experience, and I've never shared this publicly, but I feel really called to share this. But so as I mentioned, my mother was a shopaholic, and she greatly restricted us from having anything. So everything I bought, I had to pay for myself. And when I was 16 or 17, I read an article in a magazine, like 17 magazine, one of those magazines for young adults, and it was about shoplifting. And that article glamorized shoplifting.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
I became a shoplifter. And I was arrested at age 18 for shoplifting. In the summer between my freshman year of college and sophomore year, I went home that summer and I was arrested. And I had to go to court. I went to court by myself, and I hid this from my parents. They did find out because the court called my house, and we didn't have cell phones back then. So court called my house and my parents did find out. And it really, I don't blame my mother, because I don't believe that. So I don't believe this article and the blaming, because I do believe in radical self-responsibility. And that's how I lead my life. I always have. And even at that age, but I was aware. I was very aware. I was very aware that created a pattern for me of wanting things that I didn't have the money for. And so when I discovered how to shoplift, I was like, well, I'll just steal that. And I was good at it. I was really good. I did for years. I had lots of clothes and makeup, all sorts of things I stole. 2 liters of wine coolers. I was good at that. And getting arrested, and this is not to glamorize this, getting arrested was horrible. Like when I got arrested outside the mall, I peed myself. Talk about embarrassing. And going to court, and it was on my record for 7 years. 7 years, I had to get it expunged after 7 years. So imagine being in college, and every single job interview you go on, you have crippling anxiety about checking that box about, do you have a record? And I was honest on every single job interview, and I was so grateful when I got a job out of college. And then I was able to get it expunged. It was horrible. And that article put that idea in my head. So again, I take radical responsibility that no one forced me to shoplift. However, the article put the idea in my head. And it just was like a whole like whirlwind from my patterns as a kid, watching my mom shop. And she's still a shoplifter to this day. She not shoplifter, shopaholic. She's not a shoplifter, shopaholic to this day. And I've had to work through a lot of things around that. That becomes, guilt. If I want to buy something, am I acting like my mother? If I buy something, am I a shopaholic? If I buy something, and getting through that guilt that I'm allowed to buy things like as a mature adult. And yeah, there's just a lot that goes in that. So for anyone out there that is reading these articles, seeing sound bites on television, be careful what you're watching and be careful what you're consuming, because this affects all of us on so many levels, our belief system, how we show up, and all those things. So thank you for holding space and let me share that, Astrid.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Melinda.
Yeah, all these years later.
All this year, yeah. But you know what? It's like it's all of that. There's deeper meanings to all the things that we do and how it influences, and that's what it is. That's why we're doing this podcast, to create awareness, because it's affecting the younger generations and even the trends and even all the confusion with fashion and social media is affecting the younger generations, and it breaks my heart.
Yes.
Breaks my heart to see that, and my way of doing something is talking about it, teaching. I mean, I called everything self-expression classes through art, or by going in your closet and see how you're expressing yourself with the clothes that you wear, the colors that you wear. And that's how that's my mission for
Yeah.
a reason. You know what? I think we talk and we work and we do the things that we need to learn ourselves. And for a reason, I became an image consultant. I was thinking about that the other day. It's not about, hi, look, Melinda, you look so pretty. No, it's about helping Melinda look pretty inside also, feel the beauty inside.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like, okay, and you know what I've seen? And if I help you, and I mean, I take you from here to here, you come back to this, to the known, your comfort zone. However, if I if I see you, we work together in this journey of finding your self-expression in your clothes, then
Mhm.
you understand where they come from. And then that would allow you to, that gives you freedom. You know what it's like? When I work with my clients, either in their closet or in classes, it gives them freedom to, let's say, to cut a jacket. It's like, you know what, I saw this client that I work with her in her closet. She went to one of my classes and I saw her the other day. She was wearing she cut the sleeves of a sweater
Aw.
because it doesn't need to. I'm like, look, I love it. And you know what the teaching is? Looking at things in another way, in another perspective. Yes, you know what? And then I have another client that she cuts now everything. It's like
Mhm.
like giving yourself permission to, you know what, make mistakes. And you know what? It's like I'm learning about, it's a process. It's a process. So it's like, wow, you know what? She's cutting that jacket because she attended me and she feels confident and comfortable to do that. And that's what it is. It's, you know what? It's not about it's about looking beauty, both, I mean, aligning your outside with your inside.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, no, you are 100% correct. And just for everyone out there, please connect with Astrid. She does workshops and all these really creative, how you think of all these ideas. Again, you are the creative. So yes, I'm giving you full on like
Finally, I am able to see it. But
yeah,
you know, talking
and she
about
does.
beauty,
Yeah,
Melinda, talking
follow her.
about, sometimes I cannot see the beauty in what I create. So I understand when I have clients that come to my classes and they don't see, they're being competitive in the class, they're comparing themselves, they're being perfectionists. I'm like, okay, I need to look that in myself also. If they're coming to me, it's because that I need to see that in myself too. You know what? I posted something yesterday and I created and I'm like, oh, I don't like it. You know what? It's hard to,
Mhm.
for me to see the beauty in what I create has been a process, and to see the beauty in me has been a process also.
Yeah, I love that you share that because it's so important. A lot of coaches talk about duality, and I agree with that, right? So it's recognizing that that little like self judgment, let's say, is taking a deeper look at that, right? But still knowing that you're super creative. So it's being able to like hold that you are really creative, but you were like, oh, why did I do that? Right. And then there's levels there that you can go down of just trying to get better. And what's wrong with that? So, this is all the work. This is all, to me, it's the fun part. It's the shit I love to like bust and break and, break ourselves and break the matrix and all the things like,
Oh.
so that's what I love to do.
Oh, and you know what is like, I understand that. I like the breaking. I am a Scorpio ascendant. I have a lot in Pisces. So that feeling, that hurt, that's my
Uh-huh.
Pisces, all the things that I have in Pisces talking. And the deeper, I need to know why. And you know what, it's like when I post fun and then I post deep. And it's like people might think that I'm crazy because, but that's me. That's all the colors in my natal chart. Those are my energies. So
Yeah.
you're like bursting, and I like that too. I'm like, okay, let's roll our sleeves. And why do you wear pink? Why do you wear black, Melinda?
I know. It was
What
so
does it
I
mean
had
to
that
you?
I put that
Symbolism.
purple top on. So I had another for everyone listening or watching, I had another top on. And then I ended up doing my nails and then I got like the quick dry all over my top. But when I was putting the purple top on, Astrid's voice like came to my head of like, why are you picking purple, Melinda? Right. It's like, I just really like purple, Astrid, so I don't know if my mental telepathy like went out to you or not, but it was funny. So then it was like ironic that I got like, this like a quick dry on my top and I just had to change it. So then this was just the next easiest thing to grab. So but
That happens. Yeah, it happens. When I say that I am an image consultant, people is like, oh, no, I wore this because you were going to be there. I'm like, I didn't do that. And you know what, again, it's like, because we're paying attention to the outside. You know what? I want to know the person. I want to see you. You see you. You know what? It's like, okay, like the definition of a safe space. I know what I know what it is because I have experienced it myself when I didn't feel safe. And the definition of seeing somebody, I feel I never felt seen. I never felt seen in my life. And because it was all my beauty. And now I know what that means. I have a lot of friends, but just like with maybe a couple of fingers, I can say like so, that who really sees me. So I don't have that need anymore to, I don't even know how to say it. I feel seen. I never felt seen in my life because it was all,
yeah, wow, that's amazing and a beautiful share. And I hope that people really like process that for whatever it is out there in the land that you see from this podcast conversation that has affected you in your life, in your belief systems, and especially if you're a mom and going to have the conversation with your daughter. I hope I have the chills. I hope that you take what Astrid just said and really think about it. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you so
thank you.
much.
Thank
How
you.
can people connect with you? And obviously I'll put everything in the show notes, but how would you like people to connect with you, Astrid?
On Instagram, Astrid.Zayas, I think is the best way. And then also on LinkedIn, my information is there.
Yeah.
I would love to continue educating. That's
Yeah.
my mission, to teach, to educate others in their self-expression, which it could include their self-image or their creativity in art.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you love this podcast, please share. If you are on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe. Follow Astrid. She's like me. She shows up consistently on Instagram, LinkedIn. She has a newsletter. So do I. Please reach out to us if you would like to work with us. Either one, or maybe there's something you can think of collaboratively. I am planting seeds always. Please reach out. This is a super important conversation on many levels. We just like scratched the surface, and there may be some bigger opportunities and ideas that someone out there may have. And we would love to be a part of that, to, as Astrid just said, continue the conversation and help more people. So yes, thank you. You're amazing. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks
you.
everyone for being here. Bye for now.